Boom, baby, that's right. It's Car Guy Jake, and I'm ready with a live on the drive. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're doing amazing. I am blessed beyond what I should be, and here we go with today's motivation inspiration. So, I'll give you some insight as far as what I do and some insight I've recently learned. So, here we go. Man sitting by a fire, he sees a snake go in there, and the snake's in the fire, right? So with the snake being in the fire, of course it's getting burned. So he reaches in, he grabs the snake, pulls the snake out, and the snake reaches around and bites him. Well, you know, he drops the snake immediately back in the fire, and then he runs and looks around, he grabs his stick, he slings the snake out of the fire, you know, and the snake slithers away into the woods, right? No problem. Well, the problem is another guy at the fire was like, hey, dude, you know, I mean, what are you thinking? Why would you, after that snake bit you, go and grab a stick and like get that thing out of there and like get it on its way? Why would you do that? You know? And the guy just didn't understand. And the man simply said, well, it's in the nature of the snake to bite. It's in my nature to help. Oh, yeah. So I'm not going to allow the nature of the snake to influence my nature. In other words, you know, you don't get to ruin my day. So here recently, y'all know I do a lot on social media, things like that. You know, I do a lot of stuff and recently I've released an ad, you know, and if anybody has ever had the experience of buying a car from me, you know, I love to build relationships and change the minds of as many people as possible about the car buying experience. Because, you know, I was 44 years old before I sold my first car, so I tried to do everything the opposite of what I hated whenever I was buying cars, you know. And, you know, this ad, it's so funny, you know, I did a video. It's just a, you know, it's not even a boom, baby, super exciting, you know, Car Guy Jake, you know, kind of, you know, 10th level. It's just a normal ad. Hey guys, I'm Car Guy Jake. If you've had a bad experience, you know, let me change the mind of as many people as possible about the car buying experience by dealing with me. So, you know, click a link, you know, you can set an appointment with some of the people I have helping me out, you know, so on and so forth. Well, this ad has been getting a lot of negativity, you know, really bad negativity. Like people in there, oh, you're full of BS, oh, you're this, you're that, you know, da-da-da-da-da. And they don't know me from Adam's house cat. Like, they've never dealt with me. They don't know how I operate. They don't know my core values, you know, and it's so hilarious because then there are people around me as well, you know, and they're like, oh, Jake, you know, why don't you just delete that guy, or why don't you delete this person, or da-da-da, you know. And I said, no, I love negativity because it allows me the opportunity to shine, okay, to show them Jesus, you know, because it's very simple, it's very easy. You know, I won the eternal lottery and I didn't deserve it, right? I didn't deserve the salvation that I've received. Just like the people that are being rude or you know, always trying to hate or find negativity, you know, maybe they don't deserve to have kindness, but I'm going to give it to them anyway, you know. And I was talking to somebody last night and they were like, you know, oh, that was a great response, you know, da-da-da-da-da. I said, it's real easy. You know, the responses to these things are very easy because it's the truth. And it's very, very simple and easy to keep up with the truth. You know, if you just tell the truth, it makes it a whole lot easier. I'm not going to allow someone else to dictate that. I'm not gonna match the energy that they're giving. You know, I'm going to show them grace, just like I have received grace. You know, and it's real hard a lot of times because, you know, we as men, as women, you know, we always try to, you know, justify ourselves, you know. And I have learned another little thing over the years where it's so easy for people to listen only so that they can respond. not so that they can truly understand what you're trying to say. I'll say that again. So it's real easy for people to listen just so that they can respond to you instead of listening so that they can understand. So that is one of the biggest things I think I have tried to master. I'm still mastering it. No one's perfect, but if you truly listen to understand the other person rather than listening to respond, you may actually learn and grow together, or you may see a different vantage point, or you may see a different viewpoint. In other words, whenever someone is talking to me, I try to truly listen to what they're saying instead of just responding. For example, the guy that kept saying, no, you're BS, this is BS, you're brainwashed, this and that and the other on there. I could have very simply, replied with anger or just blocked the guy or, whatever. But I was trying to listen to truly understand what he was saying, and then I wrote a very lengthy response to this ad, and this ad can be found on Car Guide Jake business page. If you haven't been there, you haven't liked it, go to the Car Guide Jake business page, like that page, but check the ad out. I'm standing there in my normal Car Guide Jake suit, in front of the Corvettes and, all this other stuff right in the middle of the showroom. But, you'll be able to see that, these comments I'm talking about, and you'll be able to see how I responded to them. But, he was very short and sweet in the beginning, hey, this is BS, and then I put a lengthy, reply in there. And I feel like instead of him truly listening to understand, hey, wait a minute, maybe this guy is being honest, he's opening his heart, he's being truthful. Nope, he just quit the BS, So there's sometimes that you can't talk to some people, and there's a difference in being a nice guy and just being a pushover, or being a good man. I consider myself a good man. I'm not a nice guy. I'm very nice, I'm very funny. I'm a goofball, according to my wife, but I'm not a nice guy. So nice guys have no limits, right? Nice guys do not have a standard. They'll just get pushed over all the time and all the time and all the time. Now this is just me talking. This is my perception of what a nice guy versus a good man is. Now, a good man has standards, and you forgive those people, right? So according to Christ, it's 7 times 70 a day, right? You forgive them. However, that doesn't mean that you go hang out with them. For example, when you yourself are trying to witness to people, or you're trying to do whatever, and you see someone that's strung out on drugs, someone that's repeatedly, just over and over on drugs, and they steal your money, or they do whatever, they disrespect you, it's one of those things where you forgive them. That's part of the deal, right? But that doesn't mean you go and hang out with them. There's a part of town, in every town just about it, you don't go to, because unless you're going there to witness for the Lord. So you just don't go and hang out with them anymore. You don't allow them to do the things that they've done because you have a standard, right? It doesn't mean they're not forgiven. It just means that they have a standard. I had I'll give an example. I had a coworker who continuously disrespected me. I don't like being disrespected. No one does, So they would disrespect me, and then they would come and apologize. And then they would disrespect me, and they would come and apologize. And then they would disrespect me, and then they would come and apologize. And it was just like this cycle, that just kept going on and on and on. And finally, I told him, I said, look, man, do not speak to me ever again. Okay, I don't want you to speak to me moving forward. And the reason why that was is I've already forgiven him before he done it, but I do not allow that to continue to happen. That's the definition of insanity, is, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So you have to set those boundaries, you have to set those limits, and be a good man. Don't be a nice guy. Be a good man. Have those standards for yourself. Have those standards. It's just like anything else. If we are to be Christ-like, then we can't be, in the world or of the world. We have to be in this world. This is a fallen world, so we have to be in this world until we go to glory. But we don't have to be of the world. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Do me a favor. Go to Car Guy Jake business page. Go over there. Just, search Car Guy Jake on Facebook. Check that ad. Drop a comment in support of me, or drop a comment because you don't like me. We can talk. We can actually listen. We can go back and forth, and have a great conversation. So I love you guys. I appreciate you. I hope you have a blessed day. And if you need me, always reach out to me.